Hello everybody. In today's video, I just wanted to explain that what we are going to be explaining here is a very limited scenario, specifically looking at how to defend an airbase or a strategic asset. In this video, we are using Abu al-Dahr as the target that we want to defend. So all air defense assets south of Abu al-Dahr have not been simulated in this scenario that I'm going to be demonstrating. And the only other additional asset outside of the ones defending Abu al-Dahr is one defending the area of Kuwairis to the northeast. Hello, everybody. So today I'm going to talk to you about the placement considerations for air defense systems and how to get them to work better for you in a more realistic manner. So most of the time in DCS missions, I see people essentially take an airfield, like this one at Abu al-Dahr, and they will essentially cram all of the air defense systems right around the airfield within less than a mile of the airfield. And you will essentially have long-range SAM, short-range air defenses, and everything else all clustered within the airport or within the airport perimeter to essentially protect it from enemy fighters and enemy forces that may be attempting to attack that airfield. While this is not necessarily wrong, it is something that limits the ability of the air defense system to be able to protect the airfield. Now, this is because the air defense systems have a limited range, and the airfield itself may not necessarily be placed on the highest elevation available in the surrounding area. In fact, the airfield could be placed in a valley, or it could be placed at the foothill of a mountain, which would greatly limit the ability of the radar to be able to see and track the target before it gets to the airfield. Now, what I have set up here is an example of a tightly compact air defense system to protect Abu al-Dahr from an attack. Now, this is mainly just the air defense system that would be around the airfield. This isn't tied into anything other than this one other system here at Kuwairis. So there isn't other SAMs forward of here that may be short range or supporting a front line, which would be in this direction northwest of Taftanaz, or other systems that would be protecting other assets, such as there's a couple of military bases here. There would definitely be a SAM like right here to protect this facility as well. And all of this would tie together in being able to protect this asset as well. Now, air defenses are specifically placed to protect certain tactical assets. They can be air bases, military installations. They can also be supply depots. Pretty much anything that's of strategic value that you want to protect and keep under guard. They are never just placed out into the middle of open desert just to cover territory. Because for the most part, if there's nothing strategic out there, you may place an EWR out there just to keep an eye on the place. But you're not going to place like an SA-10 or an SA-5 out there when there's nothing to protect. Because these systems are extremely expensive. They are targets themselves. And so putting one out in the middle of nowhere doesn't really make sense, at least in terms of a realistic military aspect of it. So what you want to do is consider, when you set things up, from what direction is the enemy likely to attack the asset that I am trying to protect. In this case, for Abu al-Dahr, our most likely threat is coming from the northwest, because we have a base here at Hatay, we have a base here at Incirlik, and while we do have a base over here at Akrotiri on Cyprus, their ability to get in here relies on them crossing this mountain range, to which we can place an air defense system located in this valley, or further back, located here, which will protect the asset, which will assist in the protection of Hama, along with protecting an attack vector coming in from the southwest. Now, when I'm talking about an attack vector is how these Hornets are going to be attempting to attack this airfield when we demonstrate this. Now, obviously, this is set up with AI and not done with players, and players will shift depending on this. This is all very compact, very sort of just given as an example, and there are more complex ways that you can set up this air defense system. There are more ways that you can make it trickier or harder, or try to protect it, but this is mainly for demonstration. So the Hornets here are going to be attacking with long-range cruise missiles to deactivate the runway here at Abu al-Daher. Now, because they are attacking along the possible threat vector, which is in this arc, because of that, I have two SA-15 interceptors located here and here, positioned in such a way that any cruise missile attack that attempts to come from the arc that we described will be more than likely intercepted before it reaches the runway at Abu al-Daher. This is, of course, not counting on saturation tactics, like they just launched 16 cruise missiles to blow up the runway, because there's very little things that I could do realistically to protect from 16 cruise missiles coming in and blowing up the runway without saturating the area in interceptor systems way more than would ever actually be used. The only other way that we could protect from that saturation attack would be if this SA-10 was moved closer. It could assist in not only deterrent, but also intercepting cruise missiles at long range. But its job here is to protect these military research bases by providing interception along with anti-air capabilities, along with protecting these two air bases of Kuwairis and Jira, and blocking direct access further to Tabqa, which would also have its own air defense system. So, I know I have covered a lot, but what you have to keep in mind is from what direction are you or the enemy going to be attacking from, and then knowing that information, assuming that nothing is a surprise attack, or this is nothing that isn't a sustained, constant effort to keep moving forward, the enemy will always try to constantly reposition their SAMs to give themselves the best coverage from where you are more likely to attack. SAM systems may be static for a few days, or they may be highly mobile, like the SA-11 and SA-6, and may move around every few days in order to keep themselves safe from cruise missile attacks or JSO or GPS weapons, because once they're spotted, they are sitting ducks. They will move around in order to be able to better protect the airspace or the asset that they are protecting. And so in this case, we are simulating that the entire south here is under red control, and the entire northwest is under blue control. And so the goal of our air defense placement to protect this forward asset would be to prevent a runway deactivation. If said runway deactivation does occur, fixed wing assets would be moved out. This would become a helicopter installation until as such time that the runway could be reactivated. The SAMs would also be repositioned to better support more frontline and cast support rather than protecting the airbase itself. It would still be protecting the airbase, but it would be more to help support ground operations to hopefully push the fight away from the airfield. Now, with all of this in mind, we have placed an SA-6 only about 5 miles away from the end of Abu al-Dahr, and the SA-11 is only 6 miles as well. The SA-3 over here is the longest out here at 8 miles, and this is to protect fighters which are proceeding at low altitude, sneak under the SA-10, work their way around this mountain, and come here. Now, this is mainly to help extend the coverage of these two SAMs on this direction. As you can see, their engagement distance is just outside of the SA-3. Now, what we can do if we wanted to extend that bubble even more, we can take the SA-3 and we can push it out further. And this way we have now expanded our sphere of influence to keep assets from being able to engage. And we can obviously not worry about the south here. So our main concern is just what can get around here. So with the SA-3 having expanded its sphere of influence, we can also move our SA-11 further north to be able to expand our sphere of influence towards the north. So we're going to move this a little further out. Obviously, you want to place radars with maximum terrain advantage to where you are raising their elevation so that the radar can see more targets. You're not obstructing the launchers. You're not obstructing the track radar as much as possible. And then the SA-6, we're just going to keep that where it is. And as you can see, just by moving those assets further out, we have now strengthened our ability to block and attack from the north, a little bit to the west, not as much. And we have a secondary defense ring that is covering also a little more north and a little more west. So if we wanted to expand our coverage to the west, we can push this unit out over to the west over here just a little bit, and that helps more focus our defenses in this direction. Now, because these are so spread far out, this allows the engagement area. So this is the only engagement area by the SA-11. The SA-10 is also providing top cover up to about this distance. And so the threat has now pretty much been pushed to have to deal with the SAM this early. And if they can engage and destroy the SAM, then they have to deal with this one before they can even move in to Abu al-Dahr. They still have to worry about the SA-10 if they get too far this way. And they would also have to worry about cap cover because obviously at this point, if you've already engaged this SAM and this SAM, if this SAM's not able to engage, there's going to be fighters scrambling out of air bases. So with all of that, let's fire up this and we'll see what our air defense system does. Alright, so now we're running our mission with our air defense system spread out. As you can see, we have our launch and engagement ranges. I'll remove the detection ranges just to make it easier. So right now we have two F-18 Hornets coming in with SLAM-ers to deactivate Abu al-Dahr located here. As we discussed, we have our SAMs positioned in such a way that they should be able to provide protection for Abu al-Dahr from these low-flying Hornets who are only flying at 6,561 feet. I know that's the default altitude, but I didn't want them high, and I didn't want them flying nap of the Earth. So they're going to come in at low level, release their missiles, and hopefully get out without being damaged. So right now they have entered the SA-11's track and engagement area. So the SA-11 is going to be firing itself up, trying to get track locks on the aircraft. And as you can see, they've already fired their cruise missiles. So the air defense system is currently having a problem with engagements. So, and we can see that the terrain is not necessarily helping with the ability of the system to be able to search and track our Hornets, which it should be able to engage at this point. But because of terrain, it's not making it easy, and the system's also still firing up because they started slightly inside of their detection range. So now all 4 cruise missiles have been fired. The SA-11 is now firing back at the Hornets. The SA-6 is standing by, ready to engage, but the Hornets have turned outside of their engagement range, but they are well inside the 11. And that's Splash 1 Hornet. Splash 2 Hornets. So we have just splashed both Hornets, and now their missiles are continuing to target. Our SA-11s, SA-15s should now be firing up and begin engaging the cruise missiles, which, as you can see, are targeted here and here on the runway. And there go the Tors, engaging the Slammers. It's a miss. Both missiles down now. And that system's going to get one last shot off before the missile impacts. Missile missed. And missile intercepted. So as we can see, the system is not 100% perfect, and it still does have some vulnerabilities, even being much more designed with an idea as to where the attack is possibly coming from. So there is still a possibility as to getting through, but it really provides more resistance and keeps the fight from only being localized to one square area. Anywho, I hope this helps with designing your air defense systems in protecting assets and targets in DCS, and I will see you in the next video.